Welcome. Tonight, a magistrate court sitting in Ekiti State grants human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi 30 million naira bail. A state high court sitting in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, nullifies the ward, local government and state congresses of the All Progressives Congress, the APC. Minister of Finance Wale Edu says the federal government projects 7% economic growth rate in the year 2025. And U.S. lawmakers are set to return to the House of Representatives today in a final bid to avoid a government shutdown. In on business news, Central Bank approves weekly $25,000 forex purchase for Bureau de Change operators.
On sports news tonight, National Sports Festival, earlier scheduled for January 2025, has been moved to May to allow the host effect recommendations on the proposed venues for the games.
And from Abuja, the nation's capital, FCT Minister Mr. Yesam Wike gives owners of the 762 plots of land in Maitama 2 District, Cadastral Zone A10 in Abuja, a fresh 2-week ultimatum to pay for their certificate of occupancy.
Magistrate court sitting in Ado-Ekiti, the Ekiti State capital, has granted 30 million naira bail to human rights activist Dele Farotimi at the hearing of the bail application today. Magistrate Abayomi Adeosun ruled in favor of Farotimi's bail request. But before the bail ruling, Adeosun ruled that Farotimi's lead counsel, Olumide Fushiga, senior advocate of Nigeria, is prohibited from appearing before the court. The magistrate cited Section 9 of the Magistrate Courts Law 2014 to back this decision. The case was adjourned till February the 13th, 2025 for prosecution.
We are not interested in a media trial. The court has vindicated us this morning, and our patience has paid off. The court has granted him bail. It is his constitutional right, and whatever the conditions are, we believe that by the grace of God, we will fulfill that condition. If we are unable to fulfill the condition, the law has also made provision for what we ought to do, and we shall abide by it.
The facts are clear. The facts are clear. I just want to comment briefly on the noise around the court. Whoever might have organized that noise around the court is not helping that defendant. It's not helping them at all. And they are not aware of the facts of this case. The allegations against the defendant is that he has scandalized not only Shifafe Babalola, a senior advocate of Nigeria, but also the entire judiciary. So it's a heavy allegation against him. I think this noise around the court is not in his interest.
Meanwhile, the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahya Bello, has been released from Kuje Custodial Center and he is back home after meeting the bail conditions set by the Federal Capital Territory High Court, Maitama, in Abuja. This was confirmed by the spokesperson for the Nigerian Correctional Service FCT Command, Adamu today. He said that Yahya Bello has been released after meeting the bail conditions, and the controller of the NCOSFCT, Ajibogun Olatubosun, was on grounds to ensure his smooth release and that all protocols were observed. Mr. Bello was granted bail yesterday by Justice Marian Aneni in the sum of 500 million naira. The conditions included providing 3 sureties, each owning property in select high-value areas of Abuja like Maitama, Guzape, or Asokoro. The court also ordered Mr. Bello to surrender his passport and restricted his travel outside Nigeria without prior permission. Staying with the courts, the State High Court sitting in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, has nullified the ward, local government and state congresses of the All Progressives Congress in River State, which produced Tony Okocha as their chairman. Presiding Judge Justice Godswill Obomanu, in his ruling earlier today, nullified the congresses by the party, citing the order of court restraining the party from going ahead with the Congress, and awarded 10 million naira fine against the APC. In his reaction, counsel to the claimants, Emenike Ebete, hailed the ruling of the court. However, the defendant's counsel, William Wobodo, says that he will inform his clients of the court's ruling before deciding on the next line of action.
The court actually made an order on the 21st of November 2024 for maintenance of status quo pending examination of the motion on notice. So when matter is before a court, the subject matter is there, and the court said, don't do it. And you go ahead in a brazen manner, as the court so found, brazenly. So what the court do? Let's just do it, and then we'll go to appeal and tell the court has no jurisdiction. The court has a power under its disciplinary jurisdiction to set aside such acts.
The Supreme Court has said, even in the case of Adamawa versus Dele Moses, which arose from APC River State and went all the way to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court said the internal affairs of the APC is solely, or a political party is solely the affairs of a political party. It is not for members to decide whether they must be made executive committee members. In any case, the members did not show, did not comply with the processes, and then there was an application before the court saying that there is an appeal and the matter should be adjourned sine die pending the determination of an application before the court.
The Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun, says that Nigeria's gross foreign exchange stood at $42 billion as of December 2024. That's according to him, and the great feat compared to what it was in 2023. He stated this at the session of the ministerial deliverables for the fourth quarter of 2024. Mr. Edun also explains that the nation's economic growth rate for the year 2025 is projected at 7%.
The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, is joined by his Minister of State and heads of government agencies, as well as members of civil society organizations. The purpose of the meeting is to give an update on the sectoral interventions of President Bola Tinubu's administration.
The ministry's performance in the last 3 quarters have been commendable, especially in the area of revenue generation and efficient management of government resources. Specifically, all the agencies under the ministry have performed very commendably. To mention a few, the 2 major revenue generating agencies under the supervision of the ministry, namely the Federal Inland Revenue Service and the Nigerian Customs Service, have done extremely well by surpassing their respective targets in the 2nd and 3rd quarters of 2024.
His presentation, Honourable Ministers.
The Minister begins by giving an update on the fiscal economy.
Thank you, and please have your seats.
According to the Minister, the economy has experienced broad-based sectoral growth as it puts the gross foreign exchange reserve at $42 billion as at December 2024, while the debt to GDP ratio stands at 54.5%. The government expects the inflation rate to moderate in the new year.
Over the last 12 months, the increase is $10 billion, up from $32 billion to $42 billion. And that gives us, in the first instance, it is due to the fact that we have a current account surplus. We're exporting more than we are importing. And secondly, of course, under the able direction of Dr. Olayemi Cardoso and the Central Bank, managed to increase and attract foreign portfolio investment as well as remittances from Nigerians abroad.
Midway into his speech, he stops to recognize the Accountant General of the Federation, Mrs. Toyin Madeyi, who was asked to proceed on terminal leave and subsequently replaced by Mr. Shamsuddin Ogunjimi. On the monetary side, the minister makes a list of interventions by the government, including key releases to the manufacturing sector, small and medium enterprises, interventions to boost food supply, and students' loan scheme.
These interventions are not limited to one sector or one strata of the society. It is everybody, from release of food in the agricultural sector and some agricultural interventions to this, to the social, and now, of course, in the business sector. Grants have been given, and about 90% has gone out.
The federal government is projecting a 7% growth for the year 2025. And the minister explains that the government hopes to achieve that with the implementation of the 49 trillion naira budget.
The Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, says the health sector has the potential to make a specific and significant contribution to Nigeria's GDP and job creation efforts. The Coordinating Minister made this known at the Steering Committee meeting of the Presidential Healthcare Value Chain Unlocking Program, which was chaired by him, the Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, at the Federal Ministry of Finance in Abuja. Mr. Edun also outlined some of the indices making the Nigerian economy attractive for investment.
Most OECD countries, health can be a contributor to our economic growth. U.S. health is the second largest chunk of the U.S. economy, almost 14%. In most OECD countries, it's almost 10%. We're at 3%, but as we grow wealthier, health will be a larger contribution of our GDP. It's also a job creator across the sector, and there are many jobs that can be created, and there's also an economic value around it. And I think that's what informed the wisdom of Mr. President to anchor this initiative as a deliberate measure so that we unleash the healthcare value chain, looking at policy measures, regulatory measures, financing measures, but also what the private sector can do, and to do it collaboratively between the public and the private sector.
The exchange rate is competitive for manufacturers now. The incentives are against importing, and they're all for producing domestically. And as we just look forward to the constant stream of announcements, and you know they are becoming regular. The Total announced a big investment. Shell just announced an even bigger investment. And of course, I know so many others in the manufacturing sector saying they have a $1 billion investment program in Nigeria. Even domestic manufacturers, the same way that China was producing for the world, Nigeria should be producing at least for Africa because of the economies of scale.
The governor of Adamawa State, Governor Umar Fintiri, has taken a swipe at those criticizing the policies and the programs of his administration, describing them as enemies of the state. The governor made this known when he received a delegation from the Biatier Nation at the government house in Yola, the state capital. He explains that all the government policies are available on the state's website for everyone to access and scrutinize.
It is a gathering of sons and daughters of the Waterway Nation in Adamawa State. They are here on a solidarity visit to Governor Umar Fintiri. The Waterway people, often referred to as Bachama, are from Numan, Demsa, Gire, Fufure and Lamurde local government area of Adamawa State, while some are in parts of Cameroon. First-class traditional rulers of Bachama and Bata, district heads and religious leaders are in attendance. The governor is joined by his deputy, Professor Kaletapwa George Ferota, who is a daughter of the Waterway Nation. The leaders applaud the state governments for the development strides in the state.
Your programs and policies are what we are as a community young for. And to the glory of God, you are doing such.
The only reason we are gathered here in this number is just to say thank you to you. Any other thing we will say will not go beyond the same thank you.
Adamawa State is home to several tribes. Due to the state's ethnic diversity, and the governor reiterates that his administration is open to all languages. He also addressed those criticizing his government.
You want to know what we are doing? We are not hiding anything. This is a digital government. Policy, program, they are all on our website. evaluate what we are doing and what law we are formulating.
Did not conclude without a display of the rich culture of the Waterway nation as they expressed gratitude to Governor Fintiri for his giant strides in developing the
In part two, after the break, the National Inland Waterways Authority asked Nigerians and other residents to avoid the use of rickety and substandard boats operated by drivers plying the nation's waterways. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. The magistrate court sitting in Ekiti State has granted human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi 30 million naira bail. A state high court sitting in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, nullifies the ward, local government and state congresses of the All Progressives Congress. Minister of Finance Wale Edun says the federal government projects 7% economic growth rate in 2025. And U.S. lawmakers are set to return to the House of Representatives today in a final bid to avoid a government shutdown. Three people have died after fire broke out at a story building in the Orieru Idikan area of Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. The fire took the lives of a husband, his wife, and their grandson. According to reports, the fire incident occurred in the early hours of today. The general manager of Oyo State Fire Services Agency, Yemi Akinyinka, says the personnel of the agency received a distress call at about 3:46 a.m. today, and immediately the deployed personnel to the scene. Akinyinka adds that 5 others were rescued alive from the building, but the ground floor and nearby properties were saved from the inferno. The National Inland Waterways Authority is asking Nigerians and other residents to shun the use of rickety and substandard boats operated by those plying the nation's waterways. Speaking in Abuja at the technical meeting with boat manufacturers, the managing director of the National Inland Waterways Authority, Mr. Bola Oyebamiji, says that it's an urgent need for the National Assembly to pass the Coastal Guards Bill into law in order to ensure safer waterways and safer transportation in that area in the country. The managing director adds that NIWA is saddened by the December 16, 2024 boat mishap that claimed some lives along the River Benue route in Agatu, local government area of Benue State. He adds that NIWA is working assiduously to protect all passengers patronizing the nation's waterways.
One thing I've discovered, the 90% of this mishap is caused by human errors. The level of the boat drivers, I was at a training with the boat drivers and I see their level and I discovered that, wow, we have a long way to go in this country. They don't even care about, and before they even go into the boat, every morning, they were dead drunk with various chemicals. We have gone past that. We have tried as much as possible to sensitize these people. We have gone through all the riverine and villages and cities. We are not going to stop our campaign. We need to advocate extensively and comprehensively so that we can achieve the best on our waterway in terms of safety and security. But the point is that, again, we have a lot of challenges that I think the National Assembly too needs to assist the country to pass the bill of Coast Guard immediately. Immediately. Very important.
We turn our attention to infrastructure now as we head over to Abuja Studios, where Malkwe Yusuf is standing by to give us more. Hello, Malkwe.
Hello, Anne. Well, we're still very much focused on the Federal Capital Territory, and this time, the Minister of the FCT has issued a 2-week extension to the 762 landowners whose certificates of occupancy were revoked on December the 19th this year owing to non-payment of fees. This was contained in a press statement by the FCT Minister's Senior Special Assistant on Public Communication and New Media, Mr. Larry Olayinka. According to the minister, many of the names published have offered to pay their debt. And since the primary aim of the government was to ensure payment, a 2-week extension has been granted. The statement adds that both 762 allottees and the 614 with outstanding payment have until January the 3rd, 2025. And after the stipulated date, there will be no further extension, and withdrawal of RFO titles will be final. Meanwhile, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Abbas Tajuddin, says that he is not indebted to the Federal Capital Development Authority, the FCDA. The Speaker, in a statement by his Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, Musa Krishi, states that he had paid all his obligations to the FCDA since October 2024. The statement adds that the Speaker has only one land allocated to him in the FCT and has since settled his outstanding payment in October this year, following the FCTA's publications in newspapers to that effect. In the Speaker's words, quote, "It is therefore an error for the FCTA to include his name among those with outstanding payments, leading to the revocation of their land titles," end of quote. He therefore advises the FCTA to be more circumspect in handling such issues. While staying in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service has announced plans to commence the enforcement of taxes on properties, entertainment, lottery, and game of chance in 2025. The move is part of a strategy by the Federal Capital Territory Administration to raise more revenue for infrastructure development. Acting Chairman of the Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service, Mr. Michael Ango, told journalists in Abuja that the service will collaborate with relevant agencies, including the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, to ensure compliance.
Count on this. As you are all aware, the Honorable Minister of the FCT is undertaking an aggressive infrastructural transformation of the FCT. He's building roads, schools, hospitals, and various other infrastructural projects. I'm sure that members of the press corps here know better than I do, because you follow him every week when he goes to do his groundbreaking. And I'm sure those of us who live in the FCT will see the work that is being done. All of these actions, all of these efforts require significant revenue. And we're not going to get this revenue from anywhere other than within the FCT. So there's a renewed focus on things like stamp duties. There's a renewed focus on items like capital gains tax, and even the entertainment tax, which has been in our statute books for over a decade, but it's hardly been implemented. We're also looking to implement property taxes in the FCT and other taxes such as the pools, betting, and gaming taxes, particularly in the light of the recent Supreme Court decision that clarified that states have the powers to tax all such activities within the states. Given the huge revenue needs of the FCTIRS will carry out aggressive enforcement activities against tax defaulters in 2025.
Away from FCT matters, the Managing Director of Premium Trust Bank, Mr. Emmanuel Emefienim, is confident that his company's dedication to customer satisfaction is what sets them apart from the rest of their competitors. He made the submission at the opening of the bank's newest branch in the Mafoluku area of Lagos.
It's a sunny day in Lagos, and the fast-rising financial institution, Premium Trust Bank, gets ready to open its new branch, the Head Office Annex, which is an extension of its actual head office. The massive 3-story building, which is the bank's 18th branch, boasts of numerous infrastructural and technological facilities ready to be put to use in satisfying the bank's customers. Prominent leaders of the polity, as well as management of the bank, are all seated to witness the historic event.
That hobby is poetry.
The governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, then officially commissions the branch.
To the glory of God and to the benefit of mankind. Thank you.
Afterwards, the dignitaries and management of the bank take a tour of the building. Governor Sanwo-Olu and the chairman of the Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance, and Other Financial Institutions are happy with the strides made by the bank.
We're encouraged with the progress they've made. This is the corridor that takes you to the international airport. There's no better place for us to be able to show that Nigeria is ready, Lagos is ready, and I believe the likes of Premium Trust, what they are saying to us is also they are ready. You know, you go into their facility, I couldn't even imagine that they have that large call center capacity, which shows that they have the ability to respond to customers' needs, right? So the state government is to be an enabler. We'll create the enabling space for them. We'll step back and for them to do business to business, you know, people to people business. And that's how businesses flourish. That's how businesses grow.
I want to congratulate the management and the leadership of Premium Trust. Within the space of 2 years, they've expanded by over 18 branches thereabout. And I think that is part of the support that we need in the larger economy so that we can improve on financial inclusion and, of course, banking services.
The managing director of Premium Trust Bank says their modus operandi sets them apart from other financial institutions.
When you walk into any of our branches, you feel welcome. The environment is very conducive to do business. And, of course, you also find staff members who are well trained to deliver very quality, top-level service. We don't just dump products at our customers. We sit with them to create solutions, to understand what they need, and then we co-create the solutions, and then our speed of execution. When we say a thing, we follow it up, and we deliver in record time.
The management of Premium Trust Bank is optimistic that this new edifice will contribute towards making the bank a household name in the Nigerian banking scene.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Central Bank of Nigeria approves weekly $25,000 forex purchase for Bureau de Change operators. That's on business news. Please join us again.
Welcome back. Let's delve into the world of business and take a look at the forex market. Willie Bong is standing by.
Thank you, Anne. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has temporarily authorized Bureau de Change operators to purchase up to $25,000 weekly in foreign exchange from the Nigerian Foreign Exchange Market, NFM. These transactions will take place at the prevailing NFM rate, with BDCs mandated to maintain a maximum spread of 1% when pricing FX for retail customers. In addition, all transactions under this arrangement must be reported to the CBN's Trade and Exchange Department. Nigerian businesses predict a further drop in the Naira's value this month, according to the CBN's November Business Expectations Survey. The report indicates expectations of Naira depreciation in January and the first quarter of 2025, but appreciation within 6 months. It also highlights business pessimism regarding activity volume, financial conditions, credit access, total orders, and capacity utilization. Despite this, the confidence index shows optimism for the macroeconomy and improved business activity in the coming months. And the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Mrs. Jumoke Oduwole, says the ministry is committed to driving exports in the country. Speaking at an interactive session in Lagos with key stakeholders in the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA, Mrs. Oduwole points out that some players in the free trade zone are engaged in full domestic exports. She stresses that the ministry and other relevant agencies are working in concert to ensure compliance with the design and architecture of the free trade zone, as well as discipline in the system.
I think that what we're looking at now in Nigeria is a situation where some, not all, but some players in the free trade zone have been exporting 100% into the domestic market, which of course distorts things for the manufacturers within Nigeria that are paying taxes. So the essence of the free zones is to give you some tax relief to enable you to facilitate your exports. And so there's a percentage of goods that you can export into the domestic market, 25%, after which you should pay the taxes. You can export more, but you should pay the taxes.
And let's take a look outside our shores. China's central bank has kept its benchmark lending rates unchanged as Beijing faces the challenge of bolstering economic growth and considering a weaker yuan currency in 2025. The People's Bank of China said earlier today that it would steady the one-year loan prime rate at 3.1 with a 5-year loan at 3.6%. The rate decision comes on the back of the recent widely expected 25 basis points rate cut carried out by the U.S. Federal Reserve on Wednesday this week. Before now, the Bank of China kept the 1-year and 5-year loans unchanged in November following a widely anticipated 25 basis point cut in October. Back home, at the domestic equities market, it closed the final trading day of the week in the red, just a week before Christmas. And disappointingly, Ini John Mekwa tells us more.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. It's still a very dramatic week from the beginning to the end. But today we saw the very first negative trade at the close of Friday's trade. The market mover is still Aradel, but this time around it opened at 730 naira 40 kobo, but closed at 664 naira, losing 66 naira 40 kobo. So it's still the market mover, but we're in the red today when it comes to Aradel. Profit taking did happen to it. Look at other sectors, still have good news, going on around that. For instance, when we look at banking is comfortably in the green, 1.66%. There were gains on Zenith and UBA and GTCO. So we see that consumer goods also followed suit, 1.03% in the green. Honeywell Flour, International Breweries, Unilever, they were very pleasant to investors. Oil and gas, in spite of that drop in the price of Aradel, we see oil and gas sector still in the green. Perhaps it should have been more than this, but 0.31% because of Eternal Oil, MRS, and O&O. So at the close of trade today, we still do have some positives for the week. So we're still retaining a 61 trillion naira level as well as 101,000 level, even though the market dropped 0.12%. So we do see the bear for the very first time this week.
And that's a wrap on business. It's back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Will. Still to come on the news at 10, U.S. lawmakers are set to return to the House of Representatives in a final bid to avoid a government shutdown. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Outside our shores, at least one person has been killed and dozens more injured as a car rammed into crowds at a Christmas market in the German city of Magdeburg. The suspect has been reportedly arrested and victims have been rushed to hospitals across the region. Here's Simon Pusey with other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US lawmakers are set to return to the House of Representatives later in a final bid to avoid a government shutdown.
The rules are not suspended and the bill is not passed.
On Thursday night, the House voted against a Donald Trump-backed funding measure which needed a 2/3 majority to pass. Congress had come to a cross-party agreement previously, but Mr. Trump and billionaire Elon Musk pressured Republicans to reject the deal and create a new one. Many fear the dispute could lead to a government shutdown before the holidays, leading to closures and limits on services starting on Saturday.
For the American people who are wondering where their next Social Security check is going to come from, whether or not their kid's going to get a cancer treatment, whether or not, they can travel because the FAA, people forget all the ways the government operates. And so that is the real harm that Republicans are doing with the Republican shutdown.
To proceed with seabed search operations to locate the wreckage of flight MH370.
The Malaysian government says it has agreed in principle to resume the search for a passenger jet that vanished 10 years ago in one of aviation's greatest mysteries. Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 disappeared in March 2014 while on its way to Beijing from Kuala Lumpur with 239 people on board. Efforts to locate the wreckage of the Boeing 777 have faltered over the years, and hundreds of families of those on board abroad remain haunted by the tragedy. On Friday, Malaysia's Transport Minister Anthony Locke said the cabinet had approved in principle a $70 million deal with US-based marine exploration firm Ocean Infinity to find the aircraft. Under a no-find, no-fee arrangement, Ocean Infinity will get paid only when the wreckage is found. A teacher and a teenage student have been identified as the two victims killed in a school shooting in Wisconsin. Erin West and 14-year-old Ruby Vergara were shot on Monday morning at a private Christian school in Madison. Investigators are still trying to establish why the suspect, Natalie Rupno, aged 15, opened fire on schoolmates and staff before turning the gun on herself. French President Emmanuel Macron has spoken to a booing crowd in Mayotte while touring the devastation caused by Cyclone Chido. I had nothing to do with the cyclone, Macron said. You can blame me, but it wasn't me. The territory, located north of Madagascar, is the poorest part of France. It suffers from extensive social and economic problems, including high rates of illegal immigration from neighbouring Comoros and poor quality housing and public services. Myanmar's rebel Arakan army has released footage said to show members from the ruling junta forces surrendering in the town of An in Rakhine State. People holding up and waving pieces of white cloth were seen running from the building as gunshots and explosions rang out. A caption accompanying the videos said the fighters were Myanmar junta soldiers from Western Regional Command HQ. The western state of Rakhine has seen a huge surge in violence in the past year, following the collapse of a ceasefire between the powerful rebel group called the Arakan Army and the military. Family members of inmates at a prison in a southern Mexico City have attempted to break into the facility where their relatives were being held. The unrest followed a riot inside the prison. The riot resulted in at least 2 deaths, but rumors circulated that the death toll was higher. The families of the inmates said they were not given more information, increasing their concerns and fears for their loved ones who had been detained.
Attention, humans.
And students at the Wilms High School in Germany have received an unusual visitor this week, an AI-operated humanoid robot called Capture, who led the students through a day of lectures and debate. The robotic teacher, developed by Hiboda Research, and the students discussed AI and its influence on different aspects of society. The students in their late teens appeared to enjoy their new experience with their metallic teacher. The AI teacher was one of the first real-life experiments of a robot-led lesson in Europe.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you very much, Simon. And we delve into the world of sports with Kelly Egiga, who's ready to take us through those stories.
Many thanks indeed, Anne, and welcome to Sports News. The National Sports Festival tagged Gateway Games earlier scheduled to hold on January 12 to 25, 2025 will now hold between May 16 to May 30 next year. Director General from the National Sports Commission, Bukola Alakwade, explains that the shift in date was to allow the newly created commission to settle down and create a sustainable sports economy.
The Ogun State and the LOC team vehemently were against any postponement. But in the wisdom of the technical people and the MOC, we just felt there were so many elements that needed to come together for us to give to Nigerians in the spirit of the new definition of sports organization, creating an ecosystem of economic sustainability by Mr. President that there was need to push it forward to capture all of those elements together. Of course, also to get the commission to settle down properly. And all of these were done in agreement and in approval of Malashe Odiko, the chairman of the Sports Commission. So we're excited that we have a new date. We're excited that it gives us 5 months to properly put everything together. And when the experts speak, you must listen. And if the technical directors, and I'm happy you're about to speak to the chairman of all the technical directors, if they say for wisdom, for cohesion, for a proper realignment of the Sports Commission that is departing from the Ministry of Sport, that there is need to push for a few months, as the Director General will not kick against that.
And standing head coach Daniel Ogumodede has picked ageless war horse Rabiu Ali, wing back Sadiq Ismail, centre back Stephen Mayo, and forwards Anas Yusuf and Sikiru Alimi in an 18-man squad for Sunday's 8th African Nations Championship qualifying match against Ghana's Black Galaxies in Accra. The first leg fixture is scheduled for the Accra Sports Stadium with kickoff at 5 p.m. Nigerian time. Both teams will meet in the return leg at the Goswell Akpabio Stadium in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, on December 28th. Away from the continent, Manchester City traveled to Aston Villa this Saturday, hoping to right the ship amid the worst run of results in Pep Guardiola's managerial career that has them languishing in 5th in the English Premier League table. They also have just one victory to show for their last 11 games across all competitions, and Guardiola says there was little he could glean from those games.
6-7 days ago about my feelings about the team and the other one, but you fell down 6 times, you have to stand up 7. So it's not an alternative. I'm fine. I'm a normal person with the feelings like all of us, and when the situation is going well, we are better. When it's not going well professionally, so we are more what we have to do, but that it's normal. It's not, I will not go to the press conference when 87 minutes we were 1-0 up, and after what happened, I will be here, expressing something like I didn't feel. Top excellent manager, handled many things and have done incredible success like season qualifying in the Champions League. The result in Champions League speaks for itself. And they are handling good because Unai have been in many clubs handling both competitions, European and local competitions, and done really well. So it's not a surprise that they've reinforced the squad. The squad is depth. It's a long squad. It's really good. So.
Away from football, we turn attention now to boxing, where Alexandra Usyk and Tyson Fury weighed in for their heavyweight rematch in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia earlier today. Both men chose to wear their clothes on the scales as Fury weighed 127 kg while Usyk weighed in 102.5 kg. Usyk defeated Fury in May to become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. The two men meet again in Riyadh this Saturday. Perhaps a clash of the titans they always like to see. Well, sports news also for us here. I'm Kelly. It's back to Anna.
Thank you, Kelly. We'll definitely be waiting to see how that clash turns out. And the main news again. A magistrate court sitting in Ekiti State has granted human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi 30 million naira bail. The State High Court sitting in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, has also nullified the ward, local government and state congresses of the All Progressives Congress. Minister of Finance Wale Edun has said the federal government projects 7% economic growth rate in the year 2025. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. Have a wonderful night rest and happy weekend.